Any U.S. citizen returning to the United States in the previous 14 days will be subject to up to 14 days of mandatory quarantine.
Hey, it's the Quarantine Call-In Show with Laura Grant and Timothy Lovett, Kim Shields, Lauren Kaelane, and our special guest, Talent. Woo! Welcome, welcome. Talent's on the phone right now.
Did we not have music? We didn't have music this time?
We did. You didn't hear it?
You didn't hear it?
I heard it.
No.
You weren't chilling? Anybody else here?
I did.
I heard it.
I heard
It
it.
was very nice.
Thank you.
Tony,
That
the
is
one
Langston
time it was
Hughes
right,
the
and you
third.
make it look like it
that was
bad.
from Langston Hughes the third. I love
That's
that
right.
beat right there. I love that.
I was just
I
about
like
to
it.
say Barry Manilow was my favorite.
Yeah, who was the recording of saying that mandatory quarantine? Who says that?
I think it's,
I
I don't
have no
remember. I thought
idea.
it was maybe, it's not,
Not a friend
trying
of
to think.
ours.
It is. It's one of, it's either Doc Sinatra or it's, I'm blanking,
Sorry for my pop quiz question.
the other cute guy. Yeah, well, it's great. Their album is out too now, I believe. Anyway, sorry, lull in the conversation. Welcome, Talent. Welcome,
Hello.
Talent.
How are you?
I'm good. I had to think for a minute. That shuts everything down. I can't do it.
No, listen, it's all good. It's all good.
Good. Well, welcome. And I know everybody's a huge fan of Talent. We're so lucky to have you tonight. So thank you for coming on with us.
Listen, thank you guys for having me, man. You know what I mean? Like, we need friends and we need more of this to happen because we'll lose our mind if these things don't happen, right?
Well, some lose, some already lost, but I'm speaking for
True.
myself once again. This is the busiest man in show business. You are on 7 days a week.
Yes.
I have all the links. I'm going to post images on this feed while we can, but you have, I think, 10 different things, right?
Well, you know what's funny? I never counted that. Now that you say that, as soon as I leave here, I'm going to count everything I'm doing. I don't count it. I just look at it like, if I'm going to motivate people or try to motivate people, I got to be motivated. So
Right.
in me motivating people, I'm actually motivating myself and keeping myself motivated in a virtual loop. So that's partial of the reason that I do it. But the main reason is everything that I do on my platforms, I believe that we need it right now.
Absolutely. I love everything. I love the messages every day. And I know you were on the radio station also. Are you still doing the radio?
I still do the radio. I actually picked up 2 more radio projects recently in the last few weeks where I'm going to have to travel back and forth and do some virtual stuff with Buffalo, WUFO up there. Still do WDKX next door in Rochester, and picked up Syracuse and Albany. So the whole New York train, if you ever ride the Hudson River Amtrak, you get me 10-hour ride. You get me on all stations, just keep popping over.
You're just like you are the king. You are the king.
Well, thank you. I try, man. New York is hard to hold down. Somebody got to do it.
You're doing it well. I know we have so many things we can talk about, and I know he's one of New York's kings of comedy.
Mhm.
You've been around for quite a while. I wanted to ask you where you started. Where was the beginning of your career?
The beginning. The very, very beginning, I got to credit J.B. Smoove from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Wow.
Where I live in Mount Vernon, and let me describe it to people who've never been over Mount Vernon. It's New York. We're technically right on the border of the city limit. So when you come out of the Bronx, you're in Mount Vernon. It's the first town you hit. It's very small, 4 square miles.
Mhm.
And back when we were growing up, back then they were projects. Now they're condos. But the projects back in the day consisted of 5 buildings and 10-story buildings. I was in one project and JB Smoove grew up in the next project over. So we were all in the same project complex, and he got into comedy a few years before me. And JB Smoove actually was the first guy that put me on stage as a new jack. We call it new jacks. So
Right.
you would get 3 minutes to go up there and try to be funny. And my first 2 times, he put me on stage, and I did really well. But they wouldn't put me on the 3rd time. They thought that I was, hanging out there every week too much or whatever. It was like, well, wait a while, give somebody else a chance. So I took my act down to Harlem to the Uptown Comedy Club show.
Mhm.
The Uptown Comedy Club on 125th is then I started to hone my skills in there. And that's how I started. But I owe the very, very first time on stage to JB Smoove.
Amazing. So when was that? Can I ask you that question?
This is next July. It was in July. So next July will be 30 years exactly.
Wow. Wow. When did you know you were funny? Because, I mean, you're hilarious, but were you funny as a kid?
Oh, absolutely. I knew I was funny as a kid. And we would sneak and listen to albums of Red Fox and Moms Mabley and Richard Pryor. And I knew that they made me laugh and I could do that. But then when I started to see these comedians like all over TV, like, Carson and the late night shows and all that stuff, I thought it was a hobby.
Mm.
So in my mind, it was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to finish and retire from a job. And that's what I'm going to do when I retire. This is an awesome hobby. I didn't know that people were making a living. It was a profession.
Mhm.
And so that was my original goal. And then in 91 or whatever, 92, when Def Jam came, and now was the first time seeing younger faces on television telling jokes. Because everybody seemed older to you at the time.
Yeah.
Everybody was grown men and all that. So to see these guys with this hip-hop swagger and hat to the back and, talking smack and baggy clothes and everything, I was like, hey, that's us. That's me. And I jumped into it. And then right away, soon as I got close to around the television stuff, I realized this was big business.
It is. Who was your favorite back then? Who were you, looking at?
I was real green. So even when I jumped in, I wasn't really familiar of everybody. I just knew from going to JB Smoove's Comedy Club, I knew that I seen a couple of comedians, and what I would see, I would know, like, that's what I want. I want to be able to have a set like this guy. This guy has a complete set. From hello to good night. He takes you on a ride. It's 15, 20 minutes. It's all perfect timing and orchestrated. He's telling stories, whatever. So I didn't have a favorite other than the people that I heard growing up, like the Richard Pryors and Red Foxes. I didn't know on the scene. So there was no favorites, active favorites on the scene at my level, like, touch them, grassroots.
Mhm.
Everybody that I was favorites was untouchable, unreachable.
Right.
They were in LA, they were on TV, they were in movies. So, I mean, to this day, to me, like, people have yet to kind of like top Richard Pryor,
Yeah.
And persevere past his tenure.
True. So when you found out it was a career and not just a hobby or something for retirement, did you start out doing something else for a job, or was that just right in?
Oh no, when I tried my hand at comedy, I had a great job. I was a warehouse manager in Elmsford, New York. And I was this kid, you're talking 21, making grown people money. Back then in 91, I had $50,000 salary, 401k, benefits. So I had to make a decision because physically it was wearing me out trying to hit the comedy scenes during the week and get up at 6 a.m. to be at a job. So I was like, I got to make a decision. Now, the decision would have been easy, except my first son was on the way. So my first son was 5 months in the belly.
Oh,
and it was like, okay, do you leave what you know, benefits, 401k, of salary, to go into the unknown right now? Because this is kind of, you talk about a risk.
Yeah.
And I leaped. I waited till I was hosting 3 rooms, and I knew my rent was $1,000 a month. I knew hosting, I would bring in $1,100, $1,200 a month. So I based it off of that. I was like, all the little bills like electric and cable and all that other stuff, I'll get that with the miscellaneous gigs, but at least I have stable gigs where I'm the host every week to pay my rent. Everything else has got to fall in line. I'm just like, it's going to fall in line, and I just followed my calling, jumped out the window. Put it this way, I was making just under $50,000 collectively with my salary. My first year, I took that leap. First full year in comedy, I made $84,000.
That's great. Wow.
So that's
a lot of money back then. Yeah.
No looking back.
Yeah. Do you come from a funny family where and were they supportive?
My family is stupid funny. Like, I am, as funny as people think I am, I'm probably the least funny in my family.
No way.
Facts.
Okay.
Facts. I have a little sister. Got, you know, my grandma passed, my mom passed, and my aunt passed. But them three ladies, off the
Really?
chain. So I got a lot of cousins and relatives that are just super fun. Like, when I'm at a family function, I'm usually the quietest one. I
Wow.
usually shut up and enjoy the show.
Now, at least one of your sons is in the business also, young talent, right? Is he
That's
still
the one.
around?
That's the first son I was talking about.
Oh, that was him.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was him. He was in the belly. Yes, he started comedy. He's working on his 3rd year in stand-up comedy, and he got the nerve to actually be funny.
He's really funny.
Yeah, he got the nerve to actually be funny.
Yeah, look at that. It's a family
I'm like,
business
wow.
now.
Right? I'm like, dude, and you know, shout out to him because talking about these virtual shows I do, I just kicked off a new show a couple of weeks ago. We went into production called The Next Episode, and I tapped him in as a producer, and he produced the first season, 10 episodes, and I just verbally told him what he had to do, the research he had to do, what I need him to do, and this guy came in there and produced 10 shows, 10 episodes,
Wow.
flawless, and he's amazing. I love my son. He's the best.
He's really good. I feel like I watched something where it was maybe even his first time up, and he killed.
Yeah, he's
Killed.
funny.
Yeah.
He's funny. You know how I knew he was funny? My son is good for sending me links to stuff that he's doing.
Hmm.
And before comedy, my son, he also, if you dip into his web pages and stuff, he's heavily into music as well. So he's a dope rapper, dope video producer. He does all these videos and rap and stuff. He went on tour with Prince Paul. He's done work for the Cartoon Network. Like, he's really into his thing, right? So I'm used to getting links from him, like, check this video out, check this out. So I was waking up, I was on the road in the hotel, then I got a link like usual, and I'm like, I'll click on it in a minute. I'm waking up slowly. And the night before, I remember watching, this is when Dave Chappelle first came back on the scene and did those Netflix specials.
Hmm.
And I remember watching 2 of them, and I wasn't impressed. And I was like, I'm like, damn, I'm watching this thing and I'm not laughing. I didn't feel good because Dave's a friend. And I'm like, okay, but he's getting his feet under him. It's going to take a minute. And I think it was 3 specials, and 2 I didn't really care for, and 1 was really good, right? But I hadn't gotten to the 3rd one yet. So I had this impression of, he got to get his feet under him. And my son says this link. When I click on the link, I swear, I'm in the bed, the hotel bed, and it's somebody bringing him on stage in a comedy club. And I'm like, comedy? And it was a 7-minute set, and I laughed out loud in the bed, nobody watching me, 3 big times.
Wow.
And I had to say to myself, damn, I sat through an hour of Chappelle and was busy critiquing and didn't laugh. You know, I smiled. I said, that was clever. That was cool. You know, because Dave is great. And I'm like, but this little kid, 7 minutes, I'm ready to critique him the same way. And I couldn't even help myself from laughing, you know, at three times, 3 big times. I mean, I chuckled all the way through, but 3 times, like what I consider big laughs, I was like, my son is funny.
He's making you laugh
Wow.
with murder face.
Yeah, and the jokes were disrespecting me too. So imagine how hard that was.
Oh my God.
It was his view on me, so it was borderline disrespecting me, but it was funny. Like, you couldn't, you know, that's the thing I say about comedians. Too many comedians don't have a sense of humor that when the joke's on them, they can't laugh.
Right.
I hate those comedians.
Right.
I
Yeah.
hate those comedians. You can't be a comedian and expect everybody to laugh when the joke's on everybody, and then when it comes around to you, you're serious. You
It's
want to
more-
quit.
It's more common than we think. I mean, like, I've come across a few people, and it's like, wow,
Right.
you dish it out.
Yeah. Like,
But-
a lot of them. It's a shocking thing, just so you know. It's like, wow, especially if it's somebody reputable. Like, if it's a new person, I'm like, he got to grow. You know, he got to get tough skin. His skin has to grow to fit comedy. But when it's these reputable people that have been 20, 30 years in the game, yo, don't talk about me. Yo, I'm like, grow up.
Right.
Like, how long you been doing this?
Like,
Well-
this is your business. Yeah.
What did he get you with that your son got you? And you're like, oh, that's me.
Well, he was talking, and my son said, if you ever see my son when he talks about me, he talks about, and it's funny because I never you never, with your kids, you never think about their point of view. Like you're a dad, you're disciplining and you're raising them, trying to get them to do the best, you know, to get out of them. And when he gives his version of it, it's like, damn, you know, it's not lies.
Mm-hmm.
It's accurate, but it's a different point of view. Like, so his point of view, like one of the things that cracked me up was I'm always on the road. And so I'm gone more than I'm there. So he was telling how he hated when he got in trouble for something and his mom would call me, right?
Yeah.
So he's on the phone and I'll say like, well, I'll get them, whoop your ass, you're going to get a beating or whatever. And he said, the problem was I'm on the road. So he could get in trouble. And this is October 1st. Come December 1st, I'm finally coming home off the road. He's like, I done got my shit together. Excuse me. I done got my stuff together. I done got my grades are up. I'm wearing a suit and tie to school. He said, here comes this guy will whoop my ass over something 3 months ago. You know, I didn't clean my act up, but it's like I'm old and ass. And I'm laughing because it's true.
It's true.
You know what I mean? And like his point of view. And then he says on top, like the end of that, the punchline is after he gets the whooping, because this is so me. He's like, then my dad want to do some fun stuff. He said,
got that out of the way.
He said, I would whoop him and go, let's go to the movies.
So great. So when did you know you made it? Because I can see a bunch of different things in your career where I would have been like, okay, that's it. But where did you find it?
You know what's funny is I think every artist, not just comedians, I think every artist has a different guideline of them seeing themselves as making it. I've never seen myself as making it or made it. I've always seen myself as, because it's a marathon, and I still look at myself in the middle of this marathon, and I think that the first part of winning is to sustain.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're taking a leap of faith, you feel this calling, and you're like, okay, I'm jumping into it. So at the worst case scenario, I have to at least trade a job or career for a better or at least a decent job or career.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I left to 50. At least to me, my first sign of success is to at least make 50. Like I can't leave 50 and make 20 because then that's a bad decision. If I did 20 years of making 20,000 and I left a job with 50, like I'm the dumbest guy in the world. But if I can even it out, leave 50, make 50 and gradually get to whatever, even though my case, the first year was 84,000, which was great for me, was like, okay, I made the right decision. So that was like making it to me is in levels. Like I'm not done making it,
No.
you know? So that's making it number one. Then the projects come and each project is making it again at another level. You know, you get picked to do a TV spot. You're like, yes, I've never been on TV. I made it to the TV.
Mm-hmm.
You know, then you get a movie, your first movie. I made it to the big screen. You know, then you get a tour. I made it to the tour. You know, so all these accolades along the way are different steps of making it, not one big thing, I made it. Because if you think there's one thing and you made it, we've watched NBA players and celebrities galore that when you fast forward 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, they're broker than the average guy in the street.
Yeah.
So to me, to accept making it and say I made it stagnates one person. You don't want to get stagnated. You want to there's always another level you can take it to.
Amen.
So I'm still making it.
So what are you wanting to do? What's the next goal? The next big thing?
Well, now everything that I've done was fun, was exciting, was dope. You know, it was a body of work. Now I want to do the same thing, but own it all. You know? So now I've been in 10 people's movies. I want them to be the next 10, I want them to be my movies.
Awesome.
You know, I've been on 50 TV shows. How about the next 50 be mine? You know, I've played everyone's comedy club from here to Germany to Japan. I need to own comedy clubs.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I've already started into motion. Like, you know, Tim Lovett to tell you, I've had Tim at my clubs and everything. For the last 10, 15 years, I've been living that dream, that part of the making it, you know, is getting them up. Now the next level, okay, I've opened 2 comedy clubs. What's next? Franchise.
Yep.
Now, can I open one in 4 or 5 cities and they're all running simultaneously? So stuff like that, like you can do stuff, but there's always other levels of doing that same thing. You know, I was talking on the show earlier and I was using Rockefeller Records as a reference.
Yeah.
And telling people how my connection with Rockefeller in the early days of comedy and how what separated them and why Jay-Z got to where he is because of early smart business moves. Early smart business moves. They were the first people in hip hop to not just have a subsidiary label. They had a real label. They owned their own label for real. It wasn't Rockefeller under this or under that. It was theirs. And what they did, instead of selling out, what they did was cut a deal for distribution.
Mm-hmm.
So if Jay-Z goes platinum and DMX goes platinum, Jay-Z makes 10 times the money that DMX make off the same platinum album because he owns it.
Mm-hmm.
One guy is waiting to get a check from the people who own it. One guy owns it and is cutting the checks to paying the people he got to pay. At the end of the day, he has 80% of the money that came in. When this guy, maybe if he's lucky, has 5%.
Right. Wow. You think like a businessman. You have that.
Oh, from day one.
There's going to be a talent land somewhere, I'm sure, once you take over Disney.
Fact. Guarantee. Guarantee.
Talent. What? We had a long discussion about 1 million words were typed about what you prefer to be called.
Yeah, I heard.
And Tim and I were like, talent. Like, that's it.
I texted her back and I said, call me Zaddy. Ain't that what they saying now?
Zaddy!
They saying Zaddy, right? I said, you gonna call me Zaddy.
I just saw that
Zaddy,
episode
baby.
today. I saw that episode. So, do I call you Zami?
Okay.
Oh man.
No, but here's the thing. Like, shout out to the late great Heavy D. Heavy D went to school with me in Mount Vernon, and we were very good friends. And to the end, like I remember when I landed my first motion picture, and Hev called me. He found out about the picture. I don't know if it was a premiere or it had been in the movie theater or whatever, but he found me, tracked me down because we were on different wavelengths at that time. But he found me, tracked me down, and just started the conversation like, yo, proud of you, bro, blah, blah, blah. Because, you know, I started the music with him, with Uptown Records and everything. So he was just patting on the back and everything. And he said, let me tell you something. He said, because Hev had started to get into acting.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I want to pass on some information to you that someone told me. He said, now it's time to think about start incorporating your government name with your name, because as we get older, it's going to benefit us. You know, you get this big motion picture and this blockbuster hit, and you're 62 years old, you're like Morgan Freeman, but it's the biggest movie of the decade. You know, you need to be a person and not a personality.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, even if you want to say, you know, James Talon Harris, even if you want to say Talon Harris, you know, however you feel. If you don't want to let talent go, cool, but put it in there, you know, hyphenate it, you know, put it in the middle and let people know that this person is this person. But don't just keep saying talent, because time's going on, your career's going on, you're getting older, and you always want to be relevant. How you stay relevant is how you connect with people. So the turning into using your real name was keeping your base audience, but having that middle name to identify with the people that's coming in that's still learning who you are.
Right.
This way, you're in the best of both worlds. You're staying relevant in this whole big spectrum, in this prism of generations. So that's the whole name thing. So that's why I was like, it didn't matter to me. I'm like, you can say Talon Harris, you can say talent. Like, it doesn't really matter, you know. But when I do different things, sometimes outside of the box, I will say, you know what, this calls for James Talon Harris. This calls for Talon Harris. This calls for, I like when I'm doing comedy, this is about stand-up career and stuff like that, talent's fine, because one word is quicker. It's like every comedian that's done a lot, it's a double-edged sword. You're great. You're glad that you stacked this body of work, right? But in the same token, it's a deficit when somebody's introducing you on stage. An intro could be too long. And you're like, oh. Like even people that I look up to, when I get emotional and one of these long intros, they be like, man, just bring me up. I appreciate it. I'm not being an asshole, but You know, I don't want you to, you know, make it hard for me to live up to a hype. You know, let's just keep it comedy. A good friend of mine, he did HBO, Tony Woods. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Right. Well, for us in the age of the search, you know, the Googling and all that stuff, for people who may not be familiar with comedy, you know, having them search for talent was a concern. Like, what's going to come up if you just type in talent? But strangely enough, you come up still. So
But you know what's good? You know what? And that's funny you say that, because that's what made me some of my social media names Talent the Comedian.
right.
Because when I looked for myself dumb years ago, when it first, you know, people were like, oh, Google yourself, whatever. And I was like, when I did Talent, you know, you wasn't the first guy. You scroll a little bit, you see something.
Yeah.
So I was like, Talent the Comedian, and then boom, it was right there. I was like, oh, that's what it is. So Instagram came, and I was like, Talent the Comedian. You know what I mean? So, you know, a lot of people, the young cats, have gravitated towards that right now. Or the younger generation in comedy, they love Talent the Comedian. People hire me, and I'm playing a younger crowd. I look at their flyer, they jump on Talent the Comedian, which is cool.
Yeah.
Did you tell us where talent came from originally?
Absolutely. In high school, growing up, I was involved in a ton of stuff. I was a graffiti artist. I was a break dancer. I was a rapper. I was a DJ. I played basketball, football, baseball. And I was the class clown and snapping in the hood. Like, I did so much thing, commercial art. I did so much stuff that as a graffiti artist, you wanted to find a name that worked to your strong points of drawing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have like certain letters that I didn't draw to my best ability. So I had to pick a name that encapsulated everything that I do, a guy that does everything. You know, and the same token that I can write real good when I do my graffiti tagging. So I was like, you know what, Talent. You know, my middle name was Troy, so I was like, Talent T. Yeah, and it fits rap, Talent T. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go with Talent T. So as the times changed, and that became kind of old, like with the T on the end, I just dropped the T with comedy and went with Talent, because people in my, you know, neighborhood was already acclimated to the nickname. So it encapsulated this guy that could do all this stuff, you know, which was funny, because 10 years later, 15 years later in comedy, my white comedy friends pulled me to the side. It was like, hey man, can we talk? Can we be real? And I'm like, yeah. I'm thinking they about to go into some fucking racial conversation, right? I'm like, oh shit. So I'm like, what? And they were like, man, we just want to apologize. You know, we remember being in a comedy club. Our first time seeing your name on the list, I swear to God, this is like Bill Burr and these guys. It was like our first time seeing your name on the list. We was like, yo, who is this jerk? The balls on this guy to call himself Talent. Who does he think he is, right? I'm like, I never looked at it like that. They was like, I know, we know now, but back then we were like, who is this guy? The audacity. I was like, wow. Like, for me to even see that somebody looked at it like that was kind of funny to me. Because I'm just looking at it like talent. This guy is talented and does all these things. But they were like, they took it like I thought I was this guy, and like, the hell with everybody else. And I thought that was the funniest keep and roll moment with my guys. Like, I was like, are you guys serious? It was like, dude, you gotta give us an E for effort. We didn't have to have this conversation.
I wish you had called yourself God, actually, for that moment. But...
Who is this guy?
God.
Coming in with a Jesus robe.
With double D at the end. God.
Look, I come in there with a Jesus robe and some sandals. It's me.
Oh my God.
Me. I want to get in heaven or what?
I love it. That's the next one. So this is the half point in the show where we open up the room to anyone who'd like to ask you questions. It's the Quarantine Call-In Show. Tonight we have our guest Talent. And at that, just remember, if you're not talking or you're not asking questions, to mute your mic. Thank you so much. All right, let's open the room.
Talent, this is my favorite question to ask comedians. I want to hear like your favorite road story.
Ah, man, my favorite roads. There's so many, man.
I know.
Some of my favorite road stories. A lot of them came on the Def Jam tour, Def Comedy Jam tour. I toured with them. I did very well with Def Jam tour. That I was one of the longest running guys on that tour. They kept me for about 4 or 5 years. So the whole time almost that I lived in LA, I was on that tour. So you got a lot of stories that come on that tour. And I think some of the funny, one of the funniest ones, 2 funny ones I'm gonna give you. One was I had moved to the West Coast. I had already been on the tour. Then I had to make the move, which was cool because most of the guys came from the West Coast. But I had to stop for a minute to figure out the filming schedule for Sunset Park. And once I figured out I wasn't working weekends, I called the office back. It was like, oh, great. I'm not working weekends. I can go back on tour, give me some dates, whatever. So they throw me back on. Now, the problem was a month or 2 had passed, and I was very rusty time-wise. Not funny-wise, but time-wise. You know, as a comedian, like, you can get rusty, and I'm up there, I'm funny, but there was the show was orchestrated like a well-written book. Every comic had 20 minutes. You had to do 20 minutes. It was structured a certain way where when you 5 minutes into your thing, Kid Capri takes a break, takes his 10, 12-minute break, and he comes back in on your last 3 minutes so that when you say goodnight, music is ready, blah, blah, blah. So I'm up there, supposed to do 20 minutes. I get to about the 11, 12-minute mark, and to me, it's 20 minutes. It's like, it feels like 20, right? I say, thank you, good night. And I leave off, and I can see as I'm walking off the side of the stage, the road manager, the security, everybody's face is like crazy, unbelievably like upset and irate. And I'm like, what's wrong with them? I just killed, right? I'm like, these guys are crazy. What the hell are you doing? I'm like, what? It's like, what? 20 minutes? I'm like, yeah, that was 20. It's like, that was 12 minutes. You know, I was like, for real? It's like, yeah. So I looked back. They said, do you see Kid Capri? I turned back around. This Fox Theater, I think it was Detroit or something, big Fox Theater, 5,000 seats out there. The place is quiet. I said goodnight. There's no music. There's no DJ. You see Kid Capri running down this because he was out in the lobby taking pictures, using his time to take pictures of people that's straggling. Run back, he's sweating, slides into the DJ equipment, blah, 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 plays the music, blah, blah, blah. Ricky has somebody brings out the next comic. Everybody comes back off. They reaming me a new butthole in the back. Like, dude, you will be off this tour so fast. I'm like, damn, I thought it was 20. I was so embarrassed, right? So, again, I'm rusty. So remember I told you at the beginning of this show, I'm a very good snapper when it comes to snapping. So I'm not even snapping. Now I'm concerned, like, okay, T, you got to get your legs under you, man. That was embarrassing. They talk about firing you, blah, blah, blah. So I'm focused. So in the lineup is Reggie McFadden. Shout out to Reggie McFadden. And Reggie McFadden gets on the tour, and he is just snapping on me every city. Like, and everybody's laughing at me. He's killing me because I won't snap back. Like, I don't have the confidence to even get engaged. So I'm just like, it's so bad, Tim, Boney, it's so bad. I'm sitting in the front seat of the limo with the drivers. That's how bad this is. Like, I don't even sit in the back with the comedians. I get in the front. I make them put the divider up.
Oh my God.
And I sit in the front. And these guys in the back rolling down the divider. Hey, man, what you doing up there? You scared to come? Like, they smoking weed. You scared? I'm like, man, I'm just trying to get my mind right, whatever. Yo, for like a month straight, the guy's killing me. So I tell Reggie, because Joe Torre's like, yo, Reg, you better leave him alone. You know, Talon, he's the #1 snapper in New York. It's like, man, I'm from Brooklyn, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I said to Reg, I said, well, I'll tell you this, man. I said, you got that. One night I was like, you know, you got that. I said, but I'm going to give you that. Now leave it alone. I said, because I'm going to tell you, man, I don't know when it's going to kick in, but eventually I'm going to get my legs under me. And when it kicks in, I promise you, it's going to be day, night, breakfast, lunch, dinner, relentless. And that's how I am. I know how I am. He's like, whatever. He kills me another couple of weeks. So one day we get to, what city was this? I want to say San Diego or something. We get to one of the cities, and I just feel like Old Town. And I come down, And I'm like, the minute I see him, this dude here, so to the place. We're in the dressing room eating dinner. Your mother. We go backstage. Your mother. We go to the airport 6 a.m. Your mother. Yo, dude is like, lose like 2 days of this, because I'm telling you, every step, sound check, everything that you two are at, I'm killing him. He's like, yo, so he gets serious. By the time we get to Alaska, he's sitting in the van waiting for them to open the theater door. And I'm just going, I won't stop. And he's like, yo, you know what? Forget that. Yo, step out the car. We fighting.
Wow.
Yo.
It
I
went
said,
there.
what? He said, no, I'm from Brooklyn, man. I don't play that, man. You know, we step out, we fighting. So everybody gets serious real quick. And Ricky Harris, God bless the dead, goes, Reg, are you serious? He was like, yeah. He was like, Reg, if you serious and you get out this car, if you open this van door and get out, we all beating you up. He said, because you've been cracking on this dude for months. Now that he got you and killing your ass, you want to get serious? So Reg keeps saying, I'm from Brooklyn, right? So I said, oh my God, you from Brooklyn? I picked my phone up. We had the flip cell phone. I flipped the cell phone. Act like I'm calling management. I said, is this management? I said, yeah, you got to get me off this tour. I told you, no more buffalo wings, and I don't work with dudes from Brooklyn. He was like, that's it. Get out the van. Get out the van. They was like, yo, we get out the van, Reg, we all beating your ass. That was one of my funniest. That was Alaska. I never forget.
That's funny, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, you
That
good
was
with
funny,
that.
man. Like, so, I mean, everything you do, you will have some funny stories. Those are road stories. My most embarrassing moment was a movie story. We was in production for Sunset Park in LA. Those that don't know, this movie was done by Jersey Films, owned by Danny DeVito Company. Right. So Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman, they were throwing a big shindig in the middle of us shooting it at their house, catered and everything, because they also did Pulp Fiction. And Pulp Fiction had 8 or 9 nominations for the Academy Awards. Mm-hmm. So in celebration, they threw this big shindig at the house. And this was very it was amazing. Like, you're in their house, which is up in the hills in the cut, very, very big, but very modest, and they got it catered and everything. When I tell you everybody's in this yard, everybody, Jane Russo, Michael Douglas, John Travolta, everybody, right? So I'm sitting there like, this is cool, right? So I look at this one guy, and he looked real shabby. He got ripped jeans on, ripped T-shirt, bandana. And I'm tapping somebody sitting with me, and I'm like, yo, this guy looks familiar. And they look, who? I said, the guy right there with the ripped jeans. And they look, and they go, come on, dog, you crazy. I said, what do you mean? You don't know who that is? I'm like, no, but they look real familiar. He's like, that's the boss.
Yeah.
I said, the boss of what?
Jersey. Bruce, right?
He said it was Bruce Springsteen, yo. I was like, I felt so bad. So he's like, yo, get up from this table. Let's walk. We get up and walk. It gets worse. We get up and walk. We're walking towards the pool. Coming this way, it's me and the guy, my man, we call him Chicago, Anthony C. Hall from Sunset Park. It's me, him, and I think Fredro. We're walking towards the pool. 3 or 4 people coming from the pool. And somebody stops and goes, oh, these are the guys working on the new movie, Sunset Park. This is Samuel, we all know. So we're like, oh, Samuel Jackson, blah, blah, blah. And it's Samuel Jackson and Ving Rhames. And the guy goes, and this Ving Rhames, Pulp Fiction, blah, blah. And they look at me like, from Pulp Fiction. And I'm like, I've seen the movie twice. I'm not really, was it? Look, I'm like, this, he was in it. It was like, yeah, so somebody's trying to, this is really how this happened. I'm not embellishing. Somebody's trying to tell me a scene and remember him, and then it comes to me, and I go, "Oh, you the one that took it in the ass."
Maynard.
Maynard. The face. He wanted to murder me.
Oh my God.
Now, if this is 94, 95, so I'm the scrawny, tall, skinny kid that clearly Ving Rhames would have broke me in two. Like, he just looked at me, and you know how you say something, as soon as it come out, you're like, damn.
You're right.
My boy just grabbed me by the back of the neck, said, let's go. Sorry, y'all. And I went by the pool, was like, I can't believe I just told this brother everybody got on we was in like this chartered bus. I was the joke of the night. Like, this guy right here. I was like, this is bad. This is bad. But that was the crazy story.
Well, he made an impact on you. That scene did anyhow. I think it made an impact on
Well,
many of us.
scene, you know what it is? I thought that scene was amazing because it ended up being a scene that I don't do a lot of impressions, but every now and then something sticks out and I can do it. And for some reason, I went to that because I have a buddy, my road manager, spitting image of Ving Rhames. So I would do little stupid stuff like be on stage and tell my road manager, bring me a Heineken when I say blah, 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 when I'm at this joke. And he'll come over, I tell him, take his hat off. He look just like Ving Rhames. Y'all, same thing, everything, physique. So he'll come over, give me the Heineken. I go, thank you. Thanks, everybody give it up for Ving Rhames. And the place will go crazy. And then I'll do the whole, you want some eggs, Tyrese? Like, I'll do a Ving Rhames from Baby Boy and Pulp Fiction and call up some hard pipe-hitting brothers. Come down here, get medieval on here. You know what I mean? So it came in handy.
Right.
That's hilarious.
So let me rope things back up a little bit. I just want to, what I always felt interesting was that when I first did a show of yours and we was talking, I was scared. They trap you on a couch in the morning at the hotel, and you know what I'm saying? All the comedians sit around you, and I'm like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? They about to clown me. Here it come. Here go the horror stories. But no, I mean, you gave me some great advice, but then you said you never write jokes because it's organic that way. Like, how can you consider it comedy if the things that you say are already pre-scripted? So I just want you to elaborate to people on that.
Well, yeah. What I feel is, what I know for sure is, I don't push everybody to do the same style or whatever because everybody's not quote unquote ordained to. Some people take a very methodic approach with comedy. Some people look at it, pick up books, learn it, study it, and do it that way. And then some of us are called to do it. I just happen to be one of those guys that's called. It reminds me of when I first got into film and sitcom stuff and doing that kind of work. I found it the least challenging thing I've done in my life. Because stand-up would be the most challenging thing I've done in my life. Because every time, no matter how many times, I probably got 10,000 stages under my belt. It don't matter. I'm nervous every time again because everyone's new. It's like a snowflake. No two are the same. So you're nervous each and every time. When you give a script to somebody to do, I'm back in school. I'm reading, I'm memorizing somebody else's work, and I just got to act it out. That's not that challenging to me. What's challenging to me is every time I hit a stage and making this new crowd laugh. Yeah, the last crowd laughed, but will this new crowd laugh? These new people got new problems. Every room you perform in front of, you got to realize, if it's 100 people, those are 100 people with at least 100 problems apiece. Mm-hmm. You got to bring them together in a simultaneous laughter, a point of forgetting their problems to laughing at whatever it is, the jest that you're joking about. So that's different and new each and every time. It's very hard, as opposed to waking up, because I can sit up all night and read the script and show up prepared. And be like, oh my God, he knew his lines. Yeah, because I can read. It's not that deep. I've been reading a long time now. So it's not challenging. You know what I mean? So as a comic, what I feel that the biggest laughs you ever hear in a comedy club come from relatability, the highest levels of relatability. So I tell people all the time is that's why I don't sit down and write a joke per se, because if I sit down and write a joke, how real is it? It's not that real. Wow. It's like writing a cartoon or writing a script or writing a movie. But if it comes from here, organically, I'm really giving it to you how it's processing in here. So you're getting it fresh and raw and uncut. You know what I mean? It's why we stop eating meat and we go to fish. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that type of thing. So don't get me wrong. There's different methods. Some people are storytellers. Some people are punchline guys, setups and knockdowns, one-liners. Some people really just snap, and some people just go off the cuff and use a natural ability. DL was one of those guys. DL turned into a writer. you know, and I get it because the more you push out, let's say you're a guy that's doing a special every year, like Chris Rock, he has to write because he can't take the chance of organically doing a special and saying some shit he said in the last special. So he has to put together a blueprint and an outline and try to stick to that outline. To this special, like Chappelle's last thing, this is going to be about Black Lives Matter. This one's going to be about Frederick Douglass, you know, but I got to make sure I don't say the same thing because that already was said and you get penalized for that. Do you know that you can actually lose money by doing that? If I cut a deal with Netflix to do a thing and I do the next one and I do the same joke that I did on the last one, that could be a breach of contract.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
It's
So-
fascinating.
You talked about having like that light bulb moment when you saw Def Jam comedy. That's like, wow, like this is me too. This is us. I can do that. Did you have like a moment where you were like, oh, I'm seeing women on stage and like, oh, this is like, oh, she not just like, oh, there's female comics, but being like, oh, that is like respect. I like that's funny.
You mean like having a moment? Well, first of all, females are different. Like, this is one of those areas where, unfortunately, you're dealing with a double standard, right? So, and when I say double standard, the example would be men can talk about sex all day through their material. Nobody says anything. The most critiquing you might get, the most negative return you might get is, oh, all you do is talk about sex, you know, or, you know, you're too blue. You don't have this, blah, blah, blah. You don't have these gears. You don't have these channels, so to speak. So when women popped on the scene and started coming out in abundance, let's say, in numbers, they got pigeonholed right away because it was a double standard for so many years of male dominance. Half of the people was like, how dare this chick say that about these men, right? And then the second thing was, oh, all the chicks, all they do is get up there and talk about the men. In actuality, it go both ways. But in comedy, there was an instant double standard, like, she's not that funny. All they do is talk about the men or whatever case may be. It doesn't matter. Her reality is her reality. You understand what I'm saying? I keep telling people, we should be at least, in 2020, we should be in a place of no longer broad stroking anything. Take the little paintbrush, paint case by case, picture by picture. We've been broad stroking since the inception of comedy. Everything's been broad stroking. You can look at a comedian who's very blue, but see some genius in there. Just like you can look at a comedian who don't curse at all and see some genius in there. It's case by case. It's not like, oh, all clean is this, all blue is this. You know, it's people's reality as they see it, and they're spewing it as they see it. Now, the light bulb comes from what I try to do, being a veteran now. I try to change what most veterans are doing. Most veterans have a lot of information that can help people behind them, but they choose not to. They choose to hold it close to the vest and say, hey, you go get it on your own. Why? Somebody had to help you. So if somebody had to help you, you have to pay that forward. We all have that obligation. Like, that's not even a thing you really get to choose. If you choose not to do what you're supposed to do, you're cheating the game. And the bank of karma is always open, 24 hours a day.
You know, I can testify to that because, I mean, you do.
Amen.
You did give me a lot of great advice. Like, you was easy to talk to. You spent, like, you know, you was like, okay. I mean, you could have just been like, okay, I'm gonna give you some time and just leave it at that. But, you know,
no, you have to. I mean, that's how I learned that from guys like the great Monteria Ivy, who was the host of the Uptown Comedy Club. He passed away, rest his soul. Him, Terry Hodges, Bill Bellamy, Hamburger Jones. Like, these are guys that had already been in it. When I got my feet under me and started to make my tracks, they would take that time with me. So I didn't, and the funny thing is, I was never a guy who sought out for information, but I did welcome it. You know, I was never the guy to go, hey man, let me ask you something. I really was never that guy. But if it came to me, and I feel I'm an energy guy. So I feel my energy that's coming from a good place. I sit down, you got my time. You got my time, I want to hear it. You know, I got good energy from this person. He's telling me something to help me, not hurt me. And it's not about you funnier than me, I'm funnier than you. It's information that can be used. It's like when presidents leave office and welcome in the new president, it's certain things they meet and talk about and try to just give you a heads up on real quick, because you're about to come into a new thing. I've been here for a while, for years. Yeah, you know, watch out for the Lincoln picture. The Lincoln picture stares at you when you're having sex in the White House. Watch yourself. You know what I'm saying? Little stuff. But that's our obligation as far as I'm concerned.
All right.
Thank you.
That's awesome, but I don't think there's any sex having in the White House right now. But I'm just saying. But
Oh, they
that's-
boning in the White House. Well, let me tell you something.
Definitely.
He boning.
Trump might not be hitting. Somebody
right.
hitting.
Okay. That's
Let me tell you something. Secret Service get it in. You don't remember they busted them? Remember they busted them on the road with the prostitutes?
Yep.
Come on, Secret Service is boring, baby. They make it rain.
Come back to my crib, right? It's the White House, Pennsylvania Avenue. Nice.
You know what would be terrible? What if you one of the ladies that's sleeping with the Secret Service, and then they tell everybody? How you gonna tell? You the Secret Service. It's a secret.
Insurance.
Jeff DeCaro, are you going to ask your question you always ask?
Yeah, hold on though. But you brought up Def Jam or whatever. It's funny because you were one of the first people I seen on that show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was so it's very funny. I mean, your voice was always, the same. Always had that deep, raspy voice. And it's so funny because you were one of the very first when I first watched that show, you was one of the first comedians I ever saw on that show. And it's like, fast forward some years, I finally, I got to meet you. I got to work with you. It's just crazy. It's just like, and I want to say that.
Tim was fanning out talent. When he found out I knew you, he was like, oh my God.
But what's funny, y'all, is the funny thing when you say that is I accidentally achieved something that when I watched it, because you got to realize when you're on TV in these spots, we are our own worst critics, so I really don't want to watch it, but I have to watch it. So I had to watch it to see, what you can do better, whatever the case may be, the takeaways and the do's and don'ts. And the one thing that I did inadvertently and got lucky with, and then I said, you know what? I'm keeping that, because if I see it like that, people see it like that, is I brought this very down-to-earth persona to the stage. And part of that was holding the beer.
Yeah.
Part of that was talking slow, taking my time. And part of that was the relatability of whatever it is, the topic I chose to talk about. You know what I mean? It might have been something small and simple, but it was so relatable. And it will get these laughs, and you would ask to come back and do another joint. So when I watched it, the first thing I got was like, yo, I'm giving off this homeboy talking to people in his living room thing. And I was like, you know what? I don't ever want to lose that. I always want to take a stage and make the audience feel comfortable, like we just kicking it. I don't want to do that traditional comic thing. Hey guys, don't want to be that guy. I want to get up there with my beer, take a sip, a good music playing, that we all doing this. And when the music cut off, the first thing I say, we laughing. And then we just go, you know what I mean? And it's more relatable and more comfortability in the room than you sitting there, oh my God, let's see, I hope it's good. The first thing I say, I need a laugh. I made it my point. I need a laugh because I don't ever want to work my way to a laugh. That's whack.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff.
Hold on. You got to unmute yourself.
I was going to just ask the question in silence and hope that he could read my mind. Yeah. Hi, Talent. I just wanted to ask you, is there any advice, like where you are now, is there any advice that you wish you got early on when you first started doing stand-up?
Well, actually, there's advice I did get, that in retro, 10 years down the line, I think I wasted about 7, 8 years by not taking the advice. That if I had to do it again and knowing what I know, I would take it. I should have told somebody this earlier. I'm starting in like 90, right? 91 or something. Yeah, 91. July 91, I start. So it was a different time for stand-up comedy where comedians it was a thing to move in cliques. So comedians had their group of friends they would roll with from club to club, city to city, whatever. And, you know, a clique could be 4 or 5 comedians. And I remember that my first real manager was Barry Katz, who, if you Google Barry Katz, super producer. I mean, this guy's behind Last Comic Stand and all these things, whatever. Dane Cook, he made all these people, Papa Chappelle. So we were all under his umbrella. And the thing about, he told me, he used to come, he let me use his club. He owned the Boston Comedy Club in Manhattan in the Village. And we made a home out of it for Sunday nights. And he used to pop by when he was still living in New York, and he would watch shows, and he would call me, compliment me, and say this bit is great, this bit is great. And he always had nice things to say to me. And the one thing he said, now mind you, I took it a certain way because he is the older Jewish guy, Jewish white guy. I'm the younger urban black guy. And Barry told me, he said, T, you're not going to like what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's my job. And he said, I know you know, those are your friends and you love them and everything. He said, but I think you need to separate yourself. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, he was like, you need to separate yourself. He said, because you're so much advanced, your comedy's so much funnier and in advance, but you're clumping yourself in this group and you're stagnating yourself when you can be moving faster and forward. He said, I know it coming from me, and he was right. I took it like, this white manager's trying to divide and conquer me. He's trying to bamboozle me. And I was like, and we laughing, but I really, in my heart of hearts, felt like that. And I was like, why would he try? I was like, thank you, but yeah, I hear you. And I really didn't take him up on it, right? So as the years went on, 5 to 7 years from the moment of him saying that, for different reasons, I agreed with him. He was seeing something different from the outside. But what I was seeing from the inside was the people in my clique around me, he was right. I was so much funnier than them. I was watching them, for lack of a better word, slowly metamorphose into me. Like whatever that style was, whatever those topics was that was driving these big laughs, like I would come back to the club. Like let's say Sunday, I did and this is true, I could do 10 minutes on taking a shit, right? And it's hilarious stuff. Oh, I took a shit. Peanuts in my doo-doo. Blah, 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 blah. All this stuff, the people losing it, whatever. Ran out of toilet paper. Fingers bust through the paper, whatever. All of these things. And it's 10 minutes about doo-doo jokes, which really people shouldn't be laughing at, but it's so funny you can't help it, and you're relating. And then I would come back next Sunday, and one of my buddies in the group would have 10 minutes on doo-doo jokes. And I'm like, and then I'll come back and talk about cats. And then the week after that, this guy got 10 on cats. I'm like, yo. So I started to see that I had to separate myself for different reasons as a comic. He was seen as a manager. Like, dude, you just need to be a part so people can see you and not always the group. Like, you're not New Edition. You know what I mean? Bobby Brown your ass out of here. You know what I mean? Every little step over this way. So that was a piece of advice, right? That was a piece of advice that I really wish I would have got it when it was given to me, because I wasted about 8 years. Like, so 7, 8 years later, when I started to separate myself, sure enough, all these things started coming. So that's 7, 8 years that things could have came a lot faster.
So which of us are you telling to quit comedy as a weapon?
To quit comedy?
Comedy as a weapon, this group, whatever. Thank you.
Oh, listen, you guys should separate as soon as possible.
I'm down.
We're trying.
You get a pair of headphones, then Bonnie get the headphones, then
Right.
Tim got the headphones. End this shit, quick.
Pretty soon we're going to be singing some songs for y'all. Thank you so much. Anybody else have a question before we end this, unfortunately?
I know this is a great show, man. I really do appreciate you coming out, taking the time to, do this for me or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got some great stories, man. And one day,
we just tipped the iceberg. You guys got to have me back so I can talk about my pit bulls.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Look at my shirt. What my shirt say? Hashtag.
Everything. Oh, pit bulls. I know self-love, music. You know what I mean? Everything. Like, how many hashtags? Right? How many hashtags you got? Like, it's on the back, it's on the sleeve.
You know what's funny about this shirt? Somebody on my platform. One thing I love people because since I've been doing these things, people have been coming out of the woodwork with different things. They've been mailing shirts, hats, and buying shirts and hats. And they know I've been big up in tequila during the pandemic. I said, I don't know what it is about tequila, but tequila is the hand sanitizer for the insides. That's your hand sanitizer for the inside. I can prove it. I ain't got time, but I can prove it. So I've been drinking, normally I'm between vodka and tequila, but it's been all tequila since lockdown and the quarantine. And people have been sending bottles and bottles. So they've been powering my shows and stuff like that. So somebody sent the shirt, paying attention to all the shows. It says hashtag tequila, right? Mm-hmm. You say hashtag music, because I've been playing a lot of music, hashtag self-love, and hashtag pitbull. So sometime I'll be, like I'm talking to you now, and a dog will come in here and just get up on my lap and be in the camera, like licking me. Like, hey, I want to go out. So people paying attention to everything. I love them to death, man. I love you guys. This was awesome.
We love you. This is like Christmas in August.
Oh, this was awesome, man.
Thank you so much, Talent.
Right,
everybody give him a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
Before you don't want to snap on Tim before you leave.
Come on, maybe a little bit.
That's terrible.
See how they do me?
I should have told Tim. Did you tell him the story?
What story?
The reason why I won't snap on Tim is because Tim got my respect. Tim did something no player has done in the history of playing. Tim bagged some women in the bar and the club, drinking Bud Light.
They thought he was Bobby Brown.
I've never seen this happen in the 30 years of comedy. I got to buy Sex on the Beach, Long Island iced teas, tequila, Tito's, all types of. Tim had a Bud Light. We got Grey Goose bottles. We popping bottles. Only one dude bagged 2 chicks that night. Off of 2 Bud Lights.
$1.50.
I almost retired my player's license.
Hey, Joseph just showed you his dog.
Oh, man.
I ended up getting some sympathy. I got some sympathy booty that night. What was that, Tim? Buffalo?
Buffalo, yeah.
I got some sympathy, but that's the only reason I didn't retire my player card. The girl seen what happened way across the room, came over to me. I'm looking sad. She was like, I'm gonna leave with you tonight because I see what Tim did. So you seen it, right? She said, yeah, I seen it. It's crazy.
That's so funny.
Man. Oh, yo, them is super facts too. I ain't gonna
Am I lying to it? Right. Am I lying? I was borderline mad. I think I talked about it for 2 days. For 2 days, I was talking about it. I was like, this dude, man. I was like, yo, Tim, you do that everywhere you go? I was very upset.
Ones on him.
Oh, man. That was great. I had so much fun that night.
Yo, Hugh Hefner would have put a hit out on you if he knew that. If Hugh Hefner was here, he would have put a hit on. He said, what? This guy, let me back up. 2 women? Ain't no way in the world. You ain't never seen a commercial where a man pick up women with Bud Light.
No, not even Bud Light.
Commercial is the Clydesdale horses. That's it, stables. This dude left with 2 nice women too. Nice. Nice. I hate you, Tim.
In Western Mass, all he needs is a PBR, so you know.
Oh, man.
Well, see, let me tell you something. The reason why that's so powerful is he has no clue. One thing I like about Tim is very just green and generally jolly. He's a great spiritual energy guy. So he's just happy no matter where he at. But me, being a regular in Buffalo, I know that they call it rough buff for a reason. You know, it It ain't easy going to the bar and leave with a woman in Buffalo. You most likely catch 5 knuckles to the forehead before you leave with her. Tim popped 2 Bud Light. He got cocky after the first Bud Light. He had the 2 girls. He was finishing one, and I think I heard him say, "Bartender, one more Bud Light." And he looked at these 2 beautiful Hennessy drinkers and said, "Y'all want a Bud Light?" They was like, "Hell no."
That's hilarious.
He was like, "Get him 2 Hennessy." I said, "This dude drinking Bud Light."
Awesome. Awesome.
I stalked you just enough to say happy birthday, which is tomorrow, right?
Well, me?
He's a May. He's a Taurus.
What is today?
What?
August 1st today.
He's a
Oh,
Taurus.
yeah, ain't me.
Taurus.
Second.
No?
He's a-
Okay.
I'm May 9th.
Well, happy birthday, Tim. I was going to be like,
Oh, okay. Cool. My okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Happy
Oh,
birthday,
Tim's
Tim.
birthday. Okay, all right.
Tim,
Mother.
text me your address. I want to send you a 12-pack of Bud Light.
Yes.
Bitch.
Yes. Oh, well, it's been quite an evening. Thank you so much, Talon. Thank you,
Love y'all,
gang.
man. Thank y'all.
Love you
Thank
too.
you.
It's the Quarantine Call-In Show. Thanks for joining us. Come back next week at 6 p.m. with comedian Wendy Liebman. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
"Night."
Any U.S. citizen returning to the United States will be subject to up to 14 days of mandatory quarantine.
Okay. We got that vaccine, third eye clean, we Visine. Dancing off the top rope, we Dougie off them high beams. Running hard like track meets, debutantes in back seats. Niacin for Claire P, my piss test with 5. Double parks on planet Mars, they surf the net, we surf the stars. Quarantine in Zanzibar, breathing on the masses. Paper